I am the evil monster. I will destroy you.
Good morning and a hearty and flotsam-monious welcome to all of you. The year is 2011. That's for all of you cockroach archaeologists who may be watching this thousands of years in the future, trying to deduce what was going on back in these days. Just want to give you an accurate date. It's the year 2011. 2011, that amazes me. You know, I was born in the early 50s, and back then to think about the year 2000, it was hard to fathom. It was almost like it was nearly 50 years away. And we were supposed to have flying cars by now. You've heard that before. Everyone talks about flying cars. Flying cars, you know, it's the 2000s. How come we don't have flying cars? You know, I'm sick of people saying that. The Jetsons had flying cars. Well, the Jetsons also had a talking dog.
Uh-oh.
You don't hear anyone complaining we don't have talking dogs. Let me ask you this. What's a flying car? It's a vehicle. You get in, you close the doors, you start it up, you fly. We have those. We call them airplanes. Airplanes and helicopters. Vehicle, you get in, you close the door, and you fly. Yeah, it's not a flying car. Yeah, the only reason we don't recognize those as flying cars because there's no cup holders. Take your average Cessna and put some cup holders in it, slap one of those spare tires on the tailgate in the back. Got yourself a flying car. That's what I think. That's the way engineers think. I'm an engineer. Many of you know that. Many of you don't. Now, all of you know it because I just told you. Yeah, I have degrees in everything. Worked for nearly 30 years as an engineer in the industry. And I know how engineers think. Engineers are brilliant. I mean, you bring your brand new SUV over to show your engineer neighbor. Within 3 minutes, it's going to be all in pieces in the middle of the driveway. You'll have a complete failure modes and effects analysis. He'll tell you where the weak points are. At least he'll tell you when he comes up from the basement when he's done tensile testing your seatbelts. You give anything non-carbon based to an engineer and they'll tell you how it works. Just try to teach him. Trying to teach an engineer how to interact socially with other carbon-based life forms, like trying to teach the Roomba your toilet brush. Sure, you can drag it around a little bit, but once you ask it to lead, you're pretty much on your own. I had a friend that was a salesman. He would often have to wine and dine engineers from customer firms. He told me he hated to take engineers to lunch because they always eat the garnish. Yeah, another sales guy I knew told me he could always tell an extroverted engineer. Instead of looking down at his shoes when he talked to you, he looked at your shoes. Yeah, I'm talking mostly about men here, men engineers. There are women engineers too. And they're not as, well, I mean, I guess they're still geeky, but somehow geeky is more attractive on a woman. At least to geeky men. Just a little insight on how engineers think. When I was a young engineer, first starting out my first job out of college, my boss called me into his office, said, sit down, don't say anything. Now in those days I was still young, and I was still able to do that. So I just sat there and looked at him. Pulled out a giant sheet of paper, started explaining things to me. We have these two circuits come in here, they're going into OR gate, you're going to come out, they're going to set this flip-flop, this is going to do blah, 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 and then we're going to get an input from a beam of light, blah, blah, blah. He went on and on and on and on and on. Showed me some calculations, Carnot maps, talked about De Morgan's theorem, and I just looked at him like a good little engineer. Finally finished, he said, when I have trouble thinking, I just need to explain it to someone else out loud. He said, when I'm at home, I normally do this with my dog. Boy, was I flattered. He chewed up his shoes and threw up on his rug. What's interesting in the workplace is when you get a male engineer and a female engineer and they like each other. Because it's hilarious to watch. As I said earlier, we engineers have trouble with carbon-based life forms to begin with. And then you throw in that opposite sex thing. We're totally baffled. And that's how you can tell two engineers at work like each other, because they're the ones not looking at each other the most. Kind of like watching a very slow developing boxing match, where the two fighters never leave their corners. They just kind of stand in their corners and stare out into the audience away from the ring. Don't want to risk making eye contact with the opponent. Might get them mad. That's how it is with engineers looking at opposite sex people that they like. Don't want to risk eye contact. That might cause some kind of a urinary malfunction. That wouldn't be good. Well, I guess that's enough dissing of my engineering brethren and sisterin today. Talk to you tomorrow. Please keep all hands and feet inside the car while I try and keep all hands and feet out of my mouth. Hope there weren't any women watching. I looked into the lens. Oh my God.